It's 10:20 and we just finished our first session. There was a lots of information that they kind of went over, and I wrote it down this time. So I have all this information available. They started off with a Disney Plus. They're going to be doing a Diaries of a Wimpy Kid animated series, and it's going to be based on the first book. There were the writers and the writer of the book, and he's also a producer on the show, was actually on the panel today, so we got to hear a lot from him. And then they also talked about a thing called Foodtastic, which premieres on December 15th. The Diary of a Wimpy Kid premieres December 3rd, and the Foodtastic, which is going to be kind of like a baking show, where they're going to be baking some elaborate sets. Not like on Netflix where they do the Nailed It. It's not going to be like that. This is going to be spectacular from what we saw from the previews. And that's going to premiere on December 15th. Then we got to the cruise ship stuff. Oh my gosh, there's lots of stuff on the cruise ship. Obviously talking about the Disney Wish. There were some of the cruise ship Imagineers on the panel today. There was about 4 or 5 people up there, and they were talking about some of the new offerings that are going to be on the ship. They talked about the atrium, the Wish Tower Suite. We actually got to see them put the Wish Tower Suite onto the boat, so that was pretty cool. We did a time lapse of it. They talked about some of the dinner theater options, and it will be dinner theater versus just a dinner with a theme around the room. One is going to be Arendelle, a dining adventure, so it's going to be Frozen themed, but there's going to be a dinner show. But then there's also going to be the Worlds of Marvel, and it's going to have Ant-Man and the Wasp, and they said Thanos comes in at some point, but it's going to be a whole show. So it's going to be dinner show. I think that's neat. Dinner show series. The last thing they talked about was the Aqua Mouse. The Aqua Mouse is going to be kind of like the ride, like the Aqueduct on the other thing, except it's going to actually have a show within the ride. As you're going along, there's going to be a show. And they actually gave us a preview of that show, all the different screens that go along, and it's going to be interactive. It's going to be like 4D, where you go along the ride, and as you're going, whenever the water melts, it's going to splash you in the face or something to that effect. But basically, the show that we see, there's going to be 2 different shows, and the show that we see is going to be kind of like Mickey and Minnie are going on a port excursion on the boat. So that's pretty cool. Then we've got the adult-only section, which is going to be the Star Wars Hyperspace Lounge. There's going to be a port window, kind of like in Space 220, where they're going to have about 7 or so different hyperspace jumps while you're sitting in there. They'll probably just happen periodically. You'll end up at some planets that we know from the Star Wars universe. Some of the ones they showed up on the screen were Tatooine, Mustafar, etc. But it's going to be completely Star Wars themed, kind of like Olga's Cantina and Space 220. But the last thing they had was a kids area, and I know this is a kids area, but I want to do this. Basically, they're going to have a create your own ride simulator where the kids can create the ride, and then they get to try it out. So it's going to kind of be like Body Wars type of thing, or some of the other ride simulators, like Star Tours, yeah. So it's going to be some of the other ride simulators like Star Tours, but obviously not as elaborate. But that would be pretty fun. But so far, that's all we've got, and then we're going to come back for part 2 of our, day 2 session here, and we'll see what we got.